and welcome to another episode of Wise Attraction. On today's show, we'll be talking about positive parenting. It goes without saying that parenting is one of the most challenging, most demanding, yet rewarding journeys that anyone can ever go on. So much so that I remember when I had my baby, I used to say, oh dear, this is joyful pain, and myself and my husband, since then, we've taking active steps to empower ourselves as parents. And that's what today's show is about, to empower you along your parenting journey. To help us with this discussion today is Miss Tunmike. She's been in the education sector for over 20 years. She's had different roles within the education sector. She's been a preschool teacher, a reception teacher. She's had management roles and also a school owner. Her specialty is in early childhood. She has a degree in early childhood and community studies. She also has a degree in Montessori Early Childhood Diploma. She has certification in leadership and management and coaching. She's also an adult learning tutor. She's an early years consultant. She runs a company that trains early years teachers, and she's achieved outstanding Ofsted training results while managing a school and also Montessori accreditation for a popular independent school in London. She's also helped set up a nursery. She has a 19-year-old son. She's passionate about children, and especially within their early years. She's also passionate about parenting. Welcome, Miss Tunmike, to the show. Good to have you, Miss Tunmike.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so blessed to have you on today. So tell us, how did you get into education? What really attracted you to early years education?
Well, my mom is a teacher, well, retired now, and I guess that's where that teaching skills and the parenting but she was a secondary school teacher and a principal. But while I was growing up, she started our own school, so that was part of it. But I wanted to do law, actually. That was what I really wanted to do when I was a lot younger, or be a policewoman or an air hostess or something. But as I was getting older, I remember, when you were in I think now they call it year 10 or year 11, when I was in my 4th year in secondary school, we had to go on work placement. And I had to go to a nursery school, a reception class. So I went for a reception class for 2 weeks, and I liked it. I liked being with the children. I liked teaching. So the next year, because my mom had already briefed me a bit about Montessori, because she did the course years and years ago here in London. And I said to my school when I was in my 5th year, I said, can you please let me go on work experience at a Montessori school? And I tell you, I could remember that day today. Wow. Immediately I entered into that massive, it was like a church hall, massive room. I found myself.
Wow.
I found my calling. So I always knew one day I would go back and do Montessori training. But I didn't start that way, but I always knew one day that was going to. So that's how I got myself into the Montessori line, and I've never looked back. Never, since I started.
Wow. That's good to know. So tell us a bit about Montessori learning. What is Montessori learning, and how does it help for positive parenting? How does it enhance positive parenting?
So Dr. Maria Montessori was the first woman Italian doctor, actually. And she what she did is, when she graduated from medical school, because she was a woman, she was sent to work with children that had special needs. And at those days, those children were in slums in Italy, in Rome. And she started observing them. And she thought to herself that if children that had one need or the other could do so much, how much more, quote and unquote, children that didn't have any significant need. So what she did is she started developing learning materials in different areas of learning, from language to mathematics to biology to science, sensorial materials. And she started using it with the children. She will stand back, because really in Montessori, we call the teachers, they're called the directresses or guides. They're not called teachers, because we guide the child. And so that's kept on happening. Then before you know it, she started extending this teaching approach to the normal schools all over the world. Montessori has been going on for 100 years, and it's been so effective, because the main principle of Montessori is you follow the child. It's a child-centered learning. It's not about the adult creates the environment that enables the child. So when we bring that into, and another thing she said is, a child has an absorbent mind. And in that absorbent mind, the unconscious mind and the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. The unconscious mind, the child is between the age of 3 to 6, 0 to 3, sorry, and the conscious mind is 3 to 6. So when they're the age of 0 to 3, they're like sponges, which we know. They're just learning from everyone around them, from different experiences around them. They're hearing language, they're repeating what people are saying, role modeling things. But when they get from 3 upwards, they're now going into their conscious. So everything that has been absorbed starts playing out. So that's when you find children are talking more, they're doing more, and they crave so much for independence is the main thing. Because Montessori said the children are born with potential. And if a child is born from day one, either you have a child biologically, or you foster a child, or you adopt a child, it doesn't matter, however you're a parent, but you see that child as a child that has potential. And if that's the case, your role as an adult or a parent in that child's life is, what do I do with this great potential? And one thing Montessori says is, when a child is standing in front of you and when a child is looking at you, what they're asking you unconsciously is, non-verbally is, help me to help myself. And that is so powerful, because your child is looking at you every day, not really vocalizing it, but saying, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, because everyone around you is like parenting the child one way or the other. How are you helping me to help myself? So when we go back to the younger children, is we are the ones that creates an enabling environment for them. And the question we have to ask ourselves, from when the child starts, even when the baby starts to kick their legs and move their arms, how do I start creating that environment? We know we do the basic things normally. When you're pregnant, you look at your cots, your clothes, how you do the nursery, but there are more things we have to really look at in depth. So this is where the process starts, like having an enabling environment. But before I go into an enabling environment, the first thing I would like to say is, in order for us to be able to create that enabling environment, we have to look at ourselves. I said, parents, we are the soil for planting. And the richer the soil, the better quality it is. So it's always best, because as I said, parenting is the only job you do not go to school for. You do not need a qualification. You do not need any kind of training. All you have to do is, boom, you start it one day and you've started that journey. And I think we have to start reversing that, especially with people that are not married yet, in the sense that when they think they're getting into that time in their lives, they're getting into thinking about it, even before you even meet whoever you're going to parent with, maybe we should start having some courses in pre-parenting courses, that they have premarital courses, because I think your mindset is such a basic, and it's so important to have that right mindset. You would never be totally ready for parenting, but at least you've started the journey with yourself. You've enriched yourself. There might be some things you have to take care of. There might be help that you need, to start that journey, because it's a very challenging job. It's rewarding, but it's challenging because it's a life. Help me to help myself. Help me to be the best I can be in life. And that's a lot. That's a lot to put on any human being. So now the children are the seeds. So let's assume this soil is well nourished now and ready for parenting. Then we plant the seed into the soil, and that's the process starts. The minute you find yourself pregnant or anything, that process of parenting starts, because it starts from everything you eat, your exercises, where you go, where you don't go, people you socialize with, your mood swings, everything you do. Your parenting journey has started. Even from the day you were born, your parenting journey has started, because the way you were parented will reflect on the way you parent your children. And we're not saying that there was anything wrong in the way we were parented, but research has come alive and shown us so many things now, especially to do with the developments of the brain, that we need to really step back and think about things. So going back to, we planted this seed in the soil now, and it's a process, and that's what parenting is. For that soil to germinate, and for the soil to start germinating, and maybe it comes out of a blossom flower, or like a plant I have behind me, or a fruit, or whatever that seed was, it takes time. It takes weeding. It takes, you till the soil, you remove the weeds. Do we have enough sunlight? Do we have enough water? And that's the process. And that is the most important part of parenting. And that process goes on forever and ever until we die. So the question is, I've been hearing a lot of things during COVID where moms, especially moms of younger children under fives, are coming saying, I still have to work. The nurseries were closed. Now we're on holiday again, the nurseries are closed. And not all the children, not children go to nursery. You know, some parents would like to keep them at home a bit longer. But I still have to work. Or my partner has to work as well. How do I engage this child? Because I have to go online at this time. I have to do X, Y, and Z. It's too stressful. And the question I ask is, number one, if you have a partner, because we have to think of parents that we have lone parents too, but if you have a partner, you come together and you draw up a plan. What time you have, you share the time and you spread it out. But the most important thing is that enabling environment that we're going to come to. How do I create an enabling environment for my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, my 4, even my 1-year-old, that can engage them for little chunks of time during the day? And not only engage them, but engage them positively. Because every action a child takes, if a child carries a pencil, there should be a purpose to what that child is using for a pencil for. Every play that a child is involved in, every game, any activity has to have a purpose. So in order for you to create this enabling environment, you have to look at all the areas of your home. Sometimes we usually just look at the child's room and we create this lovely nursery or this lovely bedroom, and we don't look at other areas of our room. First, starting from your front door, when you come into the front door, into your corridor. Now, we have our coats high up. Our children are still that high. What I have to do is I put hooks as tall as a child size height, so that my child starts becoming independent into taking their jackets off and on and hanging it up. Where the lower side where they put their shoes. Then I have to create time and show my child that time how to independently put on their coats or their shoes or their socks. You know, the more they try, because children thrive with repetition, and it has to be consistent. You don't do it today, then leave it tomorrow. Then what happens again is, then I come in my living room, because the child is involved in every room in that household, not only the bedroom. We adults, we don't stay in our bedrooms all for hours and hours in a day. So why do we only just create that one room for the child? So in the living room, how do I create a space, especially if I'm working from home, for instance, now, and I have my own workspace? I might not have a study. We're not all privileged to have a study in our home. So if I work from my living room and I have my reading table there, how do I create that space for my child? So what I would say is just find, even if it's the smallest section in your living room, and you can go to IKEA, or you might have, a little shelf, a child-sized shelf in the house, and you use that place as a workspace and buy like a child's table and chair. Children need child-sized materials and equipment. There's no point them we giving them things that the adults are using when they haven't even engaged and properly manipulated what things that is for their own ages. And that enables them to be independent, to be focused, to concentrate, and to want to do more. So what I would do is I would create this environment where another thing we have to be careful about is we're not putting too many things out at the same time. And especially parents, because we like to, we want to just buy things for our children, or we hear about this thing, we buy it. We have to question the purpose of the toys or materials or games we're buying. What is the purpose? What is the use? How will it benefit my child in all areas of their learning holistically, not just looking at one way? Because you found children that you buy them a toy, they take the toy out of the box and they play with the box. That's a children don't.
Yeah.
They don't need much. So now we need a station. I give my child their workstation, and I'm just going to show you an example of what I mean. Just to say to you, I don't have a little child anymore, so I only try to use what I have in the house. So bear with me. I'll just show you. Don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes. So I'll start from here. So I just have this little table, and my child has woken up in the morning, and normally all our breakfast cereals and everything, we keep them up or they're so high. I've organized putting just enough amount of cereal in this jar. The bowl they need, the spoon for them to be independent enough and spoon their cereal, the milk they need, their spoon, and pretend this is the child side table and chair. They go to this is their main workplace. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, we can see the table.
Yeah, they go to their table, which is their desk. This is their office. She has a breakfast, or he has his breakfast, and I've made it prettier enough. There's a flower there, let's assume there's a chair there. Brings the tray, have the breakfast. We teach them how to tidy up. But during the day, I already have a jug of water and a glass. So whenever my child is thirsty, they're not coming to meet me when I'm busy or I'm in a meeting. I have some fruit there. If there is snack time or they're a bit peckish, things they eat, you can have it there. I even have orange juice. They can squeeze orange juice. So that is just an example. They're now coming to the work. So this is good for the tummy. You've given them food to eat. Now, I have this part where, imagine is a shelf. You can get shelves like that from IKEA. And you can just put just enough materials to stimulate the child. I have things to do with language here, if that's what they're interested in, because I don't know what they're interested in day to day. That's why I observe my child and see. You have Legos for manipulating. You have like sewing kits for sewing and lacing. You have pens and pencils and paper, and you have a couple of books there and a dressing frame. It depends on what your child is interested in. Then you keep challenging the child. Like this kind of material is just something like transferring, but you use it with a tweezer, and this is more complex. So it's going to take that child time to do that. Well, the child has choices. Then I have a little brush and dustpan. I have a duster. I have a mat. So if they have an accident, we all have an accident. We have spilled things all the time. My child doesn't need me to come and say, "Oh, mommy, I spilled the milk. Mommy, I need to sweep the floor." They would easily go there and do those things.
Wow. I have like so much. Honestly, like you said, so much that we have to unpack, because you see, the thing is that everyone is at a different stage in this journey. So first of all, I'd like you to please explain a bit more. Why is the child's independence important? And that independence, from what age? Because I saw cereal, I saw water, I saw all these things. Like, you know, what? Why is that independence so important, and from what age?
Okay. Independence is important because for everything we do in life, we need to be independent. You need to be confident. You need to have concentration and focus. So all these things we're seeing, which you think we are thinking the direct aim is for my child to be able to serve their own breakfast, is far from it. That's just what you can see. But indirectly, when my child is spooning his cereal or a cereal into the bowl, the pincer grip is being strengthening, and that is for getting them ready to read, to write. The more you strengthen the activities when you're younger, before we are 2 and 3, the more your pincer grip strengthens, helping you your fine motor, helping you strengthen you to get ready when it's time to hold the pencil. You'll be able to hold the pencil properly. That's why you find a lot of people are not holding pens and pencils properly as adults, because the fine motor grip wasn't exercised with enough. Then that child pouring the jug or pouring the cereal, hand-eye coordination is part of it. So they're looking at what they're doing, looking and focusing and concentrating, because you need all that for reading and writing later in life. But right now, you're just doing it, the child is just doing it for, I'm serving my breakfast, but it's far, far more than that. I'm tidying up. It's showing that when I do something, I need to clean it up and leave it there as neatly as I found it. But I'm giving all my child at the age of independence starts, as your question is, independence starts from when they're babies. They depend on you when they're a lot younger, when they're babies. But once they start to move, the journey of independence, the real independence has started. But I tell you, by the time you say a 12 to 18 months, all this, because you see people and say, how come you're giving the child a glass? In the Montessori setting, everything is real. We don't use anything fake. They use glasses and everything that is very breakable thing you will use. And we trust them and we show them how to handle this very, very carefully. So independence starts right from day one.
Wow.
Right from day one.
This is
because
really,
let me just say something. When you have your baby, especially if you have never had a baby before, you tend to want to carry the baby and be looking at the baby. But that's why they say, put your baby down when they don't need you, because they need to learn how to self-regulate. And that's the power of independence I'm giving them. They need to know how their body works. When I feel sad, or when I want to cry, or when I don't want to cry, or how do I regulate myself? I feel a bit sad, but I don't need to shout, crying. So I need to know what to do, and my brain is working. So it really starts from when you are a baby, and it goes on. Obviously, it goes on as you're going along.
Yeah. So how do you teach your child to use those things? So, for instance, let's say you have your child at 10 months is now active, because you said as the child begins to move on their own. So let's say you have a 10-month-old that's moving. How do you then teach your 10-month-old how to use the spoon, how to pour their cereal, how to brush the floor?
Okay. So what we obviously the 10-month-old will just attend, but what you do is, as you know, I told you Montessori is observation. Children learn by doing. I do, they copy. And you find in a Montessori class, unlike a traditional class, in traditional classes, the teachers talk a lot. They're always talking, they're always explaining. We adults, we tend to talk too much. The best thing you can do for a child to show them what to do is quietly. Be quiet and just do the action. Be quiet and just do the action. If they're interested, they come to you. You see them, they watch you. They ask you if they can try, and they do it. Even if they don't do it the same way you did it, you come back again and you show it. But it's by role modeling. You're always role modeling, always role model the behavior you want to see. Okay. So if you've started doing that when your child is 10 months, can you imagine by the time your child is 18 months, and I've seen it, you don't have to say they spill something. You don't have to say, even at 12 months, you don't have to say, get the cloth. because you do it, they see it, or you do it together, and you're making sure they're seeing it, they automatically do it. Because science has showed us that by the time a child is 5, 90% of their brain is already developed by the time they're 5. So you see the amount of work we have to do before. That's the early years is so important. Because if 90% is already developed by 5, only 10% is left. And they say by the time a child is 6, all the everything they need to do well in GCSEs, they've already attained it by the time they're 6. So we're just plastering and plastering at that, but the main work has been done by the time a child is 6.
Okay.
So that enabling environment is very, very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I can even imagine that if let's say your child is really young, under 1
Yes.
or 2,
Yes.
and they know how to clean up after themselves, like you won't be one of those moms or dads that'll be screaming, "Clean your room," and all of that. You just find that life generally will be easier.
Generally, yes. Obviously, when they're older, when they're teenagers, they will test you. Even before they're teenagers, they will always test boundaries. But that's why you have things like we in the classroom we'll call them ground rules, but you have what you are in this house. This is what we do. We tidy up. You can have a mantra for the month or the week. This house, our mantra is we tidy up after ourselves. And especially when you have young children, they need that rhythm. Life is a rhythm. They need something that keeps them going, a goal they can ascertain to. So they need those little things that you say, okay, this is our mantra for the month. We're tidying up after ourselves, because you want, so instead of you saying, you don't tidy up, I'm always telling you to tidy up. You're never tidying up. I'm always tidying up after. You know how we parents are. It's like, this is our mantra for this. So you can put it in place where we tidy up ourselves. They're not doing it, you tell them to look at it. They go and do it. And there are consequences. If we don't tidy up, what will happen? But when I talk about consequences, always make the consequences something they're learning from. That's when you come about rewards and punishments. You understand? Discipline is not about punishment. Discipline comes from being a disciple. You guide. So it's not about really, sometimes we find people that really punish the child, that the child doesn't even remember what they did in the first place. So there has to be a purpose to the consequence, and there has to be, it's like a positive language you use. So, and that's because our children are learning from us. So basic things like your little child, because you have a young child, is running around the house. And maybe you have so many furniture around, and you've been saying, stop running, stop running, stop running. Obviously, the child has to run because they're at that age where they need to move a lot. But instead of you saying, stop running, or no, 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 which we say, then our children start saying no. Then we say, where did they hear no for? I've never said no, but we always say no. You can just say, that's what the child's name is Mary. You can just say, Mary, can you show me how we walk? Show me how we walk. I know you know how to walk. Show me. So you focus on what you want to see, the behavior you want to see, not the negative. In the society, we tend to focus on the negative a lot. So it's a reverse psychology. You focus on, oh, I see how you're walking. I know you know how to walk. We walk in the living room. We run in the garden, but in the living room, we use our feet and we walk. So you haven't said anything negative about that child running. So you reverse it. There's great power in, can you show me? Or I know you know, because children just want to show off all the time. They want to show us that they can do things. Yes. So because we weren't raised, most of us were not raised that way.
Yeah.
It's the growth mindset that you really have to start changing the way you think about things, especially if you have a goal, because we have a goal as parents. It goes back to being independent. It's not that being positive. It goes back to a child having a wholeness, a happy child. We want our children to be happy, and you can never know what can make a child unhappy. You talk to some people when they're old, and it's just the slightest thing that has formed them, and they have maybe a bit of bitterness, or they have a fear or something, just something someone teased them, or the way they were spoken to. Yeah. So that's it.
Okay, so Montessori sounds a bit expensive, because you need to buy the child-sized wardrobe, the child-sized table, child-sized this, child-sized that. How can someone who is wanting to practice this make it
Yes.
affordable? And also, at some point, I'd like us to also talk about kids that are a bit older, because like
Yes.
someone might be watching, they have a child that's over
Yes.
5,
Yes.
and they're
We
wondering,
will.
gosh, I've missed the
Yes.
window. You know, we'll come on
Yes.
to that later. But for
Yes.
now, I'd like you to just shed a bit light. Say you don't have the money to buy all these child-sized things. What do you do?
Okay, I would say something to you. It's expensive, but it's not expensive if you want to practice it in your house. When you go to a Montessori school, okay, it can be a bit more expensive because of all the materials. But like I showed you earlier on, I just had a stool in the house and I had another table and I placed things on it. And you can always change that over. So I didn't need to go to the shop to buy things. Yes, you can invest in that table and chair, the side because they do need it. And now we have IKEA. You have so many places that you could get a decent amount, things for a decent amount of money. You don't have to buy all the toys in the world. You can make things. I know sometimes say, where's the time to make things? But if you buy, what I'm saying is that if you buy things, think about the goal. Because sometimes we tend to buy things that are expensive and are not effective enough for our children. So if you're looking at your child's bedroom, for instance, instead of you buying a big wardrobe to start with, or you can even buy a big wardrobe because the child is going to grow up, you can now buy a rod and put a rod at a child size level, and for then hang the clothes they're wearing for now. So you don't even have a lot of clothes. So if I have that rod, child size, I put about 6 clothes there. The other clothes are on the top, and I put a couple of shoes there and a little chair. It doesn't have to be a wooden one when you're at home. It might be a wooden. We always say wooden in Montessori because it's natural and it's beautiful. It's good. But you can buy anything you can afford. A stool they can sit on. But because you've created that rod and it's child size, your child can choose their clothes. They can lay it out the night before. All those things you now want them to do when they're teenagers or when they're 9 or 10, or, you can start from when they're 2. They choose, or, you will give children choices from when they're small because they understand that balance. And you give them time. That's another thing. Children need time. We lived in such a rushed world, but we need time. So that's where you the adult have to go back into your drawing board and say, okay, I need to leave the house at 8:00. In order to do that and to give my darling child time to at least even wear their socks on their own, I need to get them ready by, I don't know, 7:30 or so. So I give them about 10 minutes, and they might need more than 10, but you've started that process. And because you've started that process and you keep working at it and you keep working at it, you find out that one day everything is just done and it's just, that's it. And you're like, wow, I can't believe my child can do that. You teach them how to wear their coats independently, where you put your hands through the sleeves and they turn it over, or they lie down when they're still small. Because when they're still small, their arms are not long enough to pull their coats across. But little things like that. Or you can create an activity in their small space of dressing up, where dressing up with practical things. I'm not talking about the fancy dress things. Those can come later if they desire. But you can put a socks there, a pair of shorts, a vest in a basket, and they just practice while they're playing. You see, they keep practicing that dressing up. And before they know it, they're independent and competent enough to do it. So it's just about thinking about things. Some of these things, little things like this ice tray, I walked into a pound shop. I got it for £1. You understand? Just thinking about what the purpose of what you're doing is. So you don't really need to go and break the bank to create that environment for your child.
Yeah. Okay. For those that
Yes. So I wanted to say something before I get there. If your child is now getting from the age of 3 and you're finding out that you don't want to be talking, you want to create more independence. I just did this roughly. I don't know if you can see it. Or you could do it a bit neater.
You can see it now.
Yes. The time, a clock is there, the time to take their bath and a picture. So you can take their own picture and you can paste it on the board. So it's like doing a timeline and they see what comes next. and you places where they can reach. So they're seeing it. So you don't have to talk too much. They go to the next thing. They go, and the more you practice things, you're giving them that independence to do those things until the time they leave. And if a child that can read, which you're talking about, a child of 5 now, it's the same thing. This day, have I laid my bed? If I've done it, tick. Just like
Okay.
how we have project management, they're just ticking boxes. So you're giving until one day they don't need it anymore because they're so competent in it. So when we're talking about a child of 5 and above now, you're forgetting that because I have created this enabling environment, it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy, but you keep thinking about it. You keep thinking about it. Children evolve, personalities change, they go through so many things, and you have to look at your environment. Do you know that you can place something in the wrong place, and that can even add to your child's behavior? Placing, maybe even where you place the bed, for instance. So when you are thinking about how you lay the environment for your child, especially their bedrooms, or go down to their level. If they're crawling, go down to a crawling level. If they're standing, their height level, and see what that room looks like through their eyes. And that helps you to be able to know what they see, what they can see. Maybe it's where the sun is coming from, and you've placed that bed. Maybe the child needs the bed turned around and they're not sleeping properly. It might just be the simplest things. So I would say that's another thing. Always look at things through the eyes of the child. And the best way to do that is their height. Go to their eye level and see how they see the world. See how they see the space that you've given them. Then, because you've done all these things from when the child was a baby until they're 5 and older, the thing is that you've created this independence. And I'm telling you, by the time you see a child that you've really used that Montessori philosophy with at 5, you would not believe the level of independence they have. Not only in the day-to-day things, but even in their reading, their schoolwork and everything, because I have given them an environment to be free, but with reason. They know where the boundaries are. Even when they test the boundaries, I give positive discipline. From 5, you start knowing how you talk. You have conversations even before 5. Ask them, what if they did an action? Why did they do that action? What were they, what were they feeling at that time? Let them use their words. Don't put words into their mouths. Let them even bring solutions. So how do you think we can solve this? Make a list and let them choose, and you can add yours to it. And you let them know where the cutoff is. I'm going to give you the time to do this, then you can do X, Y, Z. Children need to be guided. Sometimes we just come as parents sometimes and we just start the process and we don't even prepare them. You find that a lot of children need to be prepared. You can have a child that has maybe a sensory issue and you haven't prepared them and you're saying, come on, get up, we're going to X, Y, and Z. But they need time to process. We're not all in that way that we can just get up and go and keep going. They need time to process. They need time to think, and we're empowering them. So you prepare them. Yes, you give them the tools they need. So even when they get to situations, because we will find ourselves in situations where we're not prepared, you will teach them about how to manage it. But if a child is whole in their self, they will be able to adapt and change because you've given them that curious mind to be able to think, okay, this is where I found myself. What do I do? What can I see? How does that help me? And again, in the Montessori is so big of being a citizen of the world. That means it's not only about me, it's about every other person around me. So what she says is that the child is not only thinking about their family, but extended world, the society. How does my actions affect the society? How does my action, if we have that, we won't be having a lot of issues because from right when they're a young age, we teach them about cultural studies and geography, where they're thinking about the world around them. So I would say, and when some children you don't always have to be in their faces all the time. They need time to think. They need time to process. So follow your child means I'm watching you all the time. When your mood, your personality is changing a bit because hormones are there and everything, I find a way of dealing with it. I ask you how you would want me to manage you. Then we find a middle ground. We find a balance. How do you think I can help you achieve your goals? Even a little child of 5 can tell you that. Can say, okay, can you please wake me up early in the morning so I'll be able to do my choice, my choice or something. Then the child does that, but you have to enable them to be able to think, use their brain. The more they use their brain, the more they bring choices and resolutions and solutions. So they don't need us. They only need us for the very massive adult-like things. And even by the time they're teenagers, because you've done all this, and I'm not saying things won't happen, but even if a child goes the opposite way that we really don't intend them to go when they're teenagers, because we have given them the right foundation, they will always find their way. But it's not for them for us to criticize or condemn. Always just ask them, how do you need me to help you? Because if the child is telling you, help me help myself, they might not know it. How do you need me? And let them bring in the words first before you share yours, so that you will know the way they're thinking. You will know how they process things. Then you can give options, and never give more than 2 options or choices. Is it A or B? So that they have time to really process it. Because sometimes we give 4 or 5 options. We as adults, we can't even manage 4 or 5 options, and we're expecting our children to do that. Let's start with A and B, and let's see where it goes. Give timelines. So it's just like you are now you come to a place where you're like a project manager. And that's, when you start parenting children, especially teenagers, you're really like a guide. I'm finding sometimes I laugh and I look at my son and and we're like boyfriend and girlfriend now, because I find he's saying to me, the way what you did that time, or the way you spoke to me, I didn't really like it. I think we need to talk about it. And we talk about it. And I tell him what I was feeling, because I'm trying to make, sometimes we women, the way we think, this is how I felt that time. And we talk about it. And he does the same. So we do the same. There is no keep quiet, I'm your mom. You don't bring that to me. Because it's a human being. And I want him to be whole. I want him to be able to voice his opinions, to be able to bring out his emotions. Because another thing is that we kill children's emotions sometimes. We don't allow them to express themselves. So you want that for your children, but you start from when they're children. Let them say exactly how they feel. Don't put words into their mouth. And let them understand feelings as well. Because sometimes we children only know happy and sad, but other emotions as well. As they're getting older, because sometimes I might feel, if a child says, because the hair says, I'm irritated, ask them, what does that mean to you? What does it feel like when you're irritated? What does it sense in your brain? What is your brain doing so you want to know if they really understand that word, because children just use words sometimes because they hear it in the society. They don't know what it really means. So you need to bring those questions back to them. Yes.
Yeah, just listening to you, being having an African background. Sorry,
Yeah.
before I continue, there's a bit of feedback coming from you. Can you turn down the volume? Or I think I'll
Okay.
just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So having an African background, I'm just thinking, gosh, there's so many things I need to rethink. Because growing up is like children, you can be seen, but not necessarily heard.
Yes.
I am an adult, I'm your parent, or I'm your mom, I'm your dad. I know what you need.
Yes.
I know what is right for you at this time. Therefore, you have nothing to say. And just thinking about what you're saying, I feel like the way I've been thinking about parenting has been sort of, I'm dragging the child into my world. But what I'm proposing now is, rather than trying to bring the child into my world, to my way of life, I need to enter into that child's world and create things to help that child explore at each level of
Yes.
their own development, not necessarily what I think
Yes.
they should be
Yes.
doing at that time.
Yes.
And this is really massive, because just
Yes.
listening to you, I feel like I need to go back and really,
Mm.
really process what I'm
Yes.
hearing and
Yeah.
reflect on it, and really think about how I can implement it.
Yeah. And you know, and it's good where it shows like yours that you do a lot for singles. And that's why I said in the beginning, we should start this process when we're still single before you get into the situation. Then, because you're now just trying to catch up. Because
Yeah.
once that child comes, you don't have time, or even before the child comes, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, you should start thinking about that. But the best thing we do, you know, we've said that if we see our children, like for us that way, for people that are Christians, even the Bible says that we are the caretakers, we don't own them. A lot of traditionally, parents look at children as if they own them.
Yeah.
And once you look at a human being, whether a child, whether whoever, as someone you own, there are expectations. I expect you to do. There are expectations in any relationship, but that power of ownership is so strong. But if I look at my child, this is a precious gift, a potential God has placed in my hands to guide. Oh my goodness. For me, I'm already shaking in my boots. It's like, because I don't want to fail.
Yeah.
So I start thinking about it. And this process started even when I was pregnant. I had time to really start thinking that this human being is coming. What am I going to do? And because I had an early years background, I think that's what's part of does my life start to change? Because I need to change some things in my life
Yeah.
for this child. It's not the other way. The child doesn't change for me. I need to lay that foundation and that create that space. So if you have that thinking, and it's going to take time, it's going to take time. So when you try those things, it's like instead of you to scold your child, for instance, and you say, okay, let's sit down. Tell me the way you're feeling. Even you yourself hearing yourself, you're like, are you okay? But you know the goal.
Yeah.
Always look at the end result. It's not the now. That process takes time, but it's so rewarding. You will laugh at yourself, parents, laugh at yourself when you're not getting it right, and you start again. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. It takes to build a very, like a cathedral. It takes years and years. So it's like we're building something solid. But we want to give them those tools. I don't want my child to be forever dependent on me. I don't want my child to be emotionally, have an emotional baggage and not being able. No. The time when they will always come back and say, like we just say to our parents, how are you doing? Are you okay? We don't like always go back to them. But sometimes we need to create that environment that once they step out there, they're fine. Yes, as parents, like I'm a mother of one. So sometimes I tend to, oh, but really, this child is fine. He's fine. He's flying and everything's fine. It's really I myself. So I've learned and I'm still learning over the years to make a step away. Okay, to make a just observe. There was a time I remember when he was like a teenager, I used to say, God, let this child need me. He needs to need me. He's too independent. He needs to need me. Let him need me. I need him to need me. And for a while, he's like, I'm okay. Are you sure you're okay? I'm okay. I'm fine. He says, I'm like, please need me. But that's not the issue, really. That's why. And someone said to me, say that you're doing a good job. And you, as parents, give yourself a pat on the shoulder every now and again. It's a hard job. It is a hard job, but you'll get there. Just have your goal. And that's why I talk about, I'll just show you something. I thought when I'm doing my courses, I talk to, I don't know if you can see that.
If you take it up a bit to the
Up,
right.
up, to the right.
Yeah.
To the right. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I do like a vision board, a parenting vision board.
Okay.
It changes from time to time. This is my son when he was a lot younger, but I didn't put the picture there because of him. I put the picture there because I like that picture. It shows me a lot. It shows a boy, a man standing in the middle of the world and is so secure. You understand? There's the lights, there's the buildings, there's everything that can distract him. And so I put there things I want for him. I want him to be secure. I want him to be compassionate. I want him to be kingdom orientated, enabling environment, happy, safe, purpose driven. So my question is, this is my vision board for my parenting. I places where I can see it every day. So my question is, how? You remember that quote, help me to help myself. How do I enable him without saying it? Because we don't have to talk too much, without saying it, but by doing and by finding other tools outside, because we need other people and other avenues sometimes, so that it can get to this stages and more. Because this is what I have for him. I don't know what God has for him. So that we need to put it out there, make it plain, put that vision board there, because like you that have a younger child now, it's going to change from time to time, but there's some things that will stand. Being secure, that will always be there. If you're someone of faith, being kingdom orientated, that will always be there. Being safe in themselves, that, there's some things that will always remain, and those are the foundation. Those are the foundation. Yes.
We're about running out of time, but
Okay.
this has been very, very enlightening. Like, it's really a call to rethinking, think how we parent rather than just parent based on, because like I think you mentioned it, where we parent how we were parented by default. If it's not something we are thinking about, not something we're consciously asking ourselves what's going on here, you might just automatically transfer what you've been given. But it's like all you've said today, for me, I feel like it's really a call to reflect on our parenting style, on the actions we're taking. And it's not a call to guilt, because I can imagine like someone might be watching this and say, oh my goodness, I've destroyed my child's life. She's sick. He's above the age of molding. This is going to be an empowering session. And I believe that, like you said, at any stage, anyone can start, and it's all about persisting. So consistency and persistence. If you decide that you want to, start empowering your child to be independent, whatever stage that child is, you can start, but the key thing is being consistent and being persistent. That's what I think. You're saying yes, I don't have much experience of myself. I'm just saying what I'm processing based on what you taught us today. And honestly, it's been such an enlightening session. I've taken it on myself. So, Tunmike, I know you are a parenting coach and you have these resources. If someone wants to access your services, how can they get them?
So you can reach me to Instagram or Facebook. That's Parenting with Tumi, parentingroomwithtumi.com. Parenting Room with Tumi. And you can, if you want an appointment with me, you can go on calendly.com/parentingroomwithtumi. So Calendly is CALENDLY.com/parentingroomwithtumi. So you can book an appointment via that, and we could have it a chat. And what I usually do in 8 weeks, I'm launching an e-learning. So it's like a couple of units, just a preparation, parenting, and more on what we've talked about and more. Then what we do from there is parents might have specific needs. They might have specific coaching needs. So we can now do that one-to-one, or you might not want to do the e-learning. You just want to do coaching for specific needs. Then you can reach me and book an appointment, and we can take it from there.
Okay. Do you do group coaching as well? Maybe like a
group? Yes, but we have to, when I send you the form and you highlight that, so because you have to do people that match as well, because sometimes you're sharing your personal experiences, so we have to trust everyone in the group. So I do that as well. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Someone asked a question on the comments. Saying, I just want to, if you can really quickly answer it before the end of the show. And the question is, I have 7 kids.
Yes.
Did you see the question?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm just gonna quickly get. Sorry. I have 9 children, all under the age of 7. How do I cope without going crazy?
Well, we've set something, enabling environments. From the time you had that first child, that's where you start to create that enabling environment with the little tips and maybe other things. You can reach out to me. But once you do it with child A, it automatically goes to child B and C and D. Yes, you will find personalities that are different that you need to do a lot. But if you have a child that has a very strong personality now, but not all of them have strong personalities. So some of them might be calm. So you might have other tools you're using. Every child is different and will need different personalities. So, but it all starts with child A. Once you start, you have a lot of children. Once you get it right with the first, you're transferring the same skills at the baseline, the foundation. And ask yourself, if you have a child that is there's some certain behaviors. Why? As I said, look at your environment, look at the food you're giving them. Look at, if it might be a child that wants to be outside more, and because you have 7, maybe they're not going out more. Little things like that. It can be that they have a need and they might not be able to say it verbally yet. So you're an observer. You have to observe. Just spend time just observing for a week. Write things down, like timelines, because it might be there's a particular time that particular child or two of them behave in a certain way. And if you've observed that, see what is happening around that time, then you can adjust things. There's so many things why children behave the way they behave.
Wow, thank you. So here is the appointment, calendly.com. It's on the screen /
Yes, thank you. Yes.
with Tunmike. And here is the Facebook page, Parenting with Tunmike. So please,
thank
you can follow her on Facebook. I'm sure she'll be sharing. She'll be sharing resources, and also you can book a session with her. So before we end up, give us one advice for a parent. We've been talking a lot about early years, so let's talk about for a parent of someone that's, let's say, of a child that's between 8 to 10 or 5 to 10, older children, or they're still children but a bit older. What advice do you have for them?
Be present in their life. Children like you to know what they're interested in. Know what your child is interested in and find a way to do things with them, to talk to them. Let them know you're available, you love them. Love is not about food and it's part of love, but you understand, buying things and everything. It's just you being there and they know you're there. So even if they're, because as an age, they might not need you, because when they're 5, they're 7, they're 8, they care more about friendships. From 6, 7, 8, it's more about friendships. So you're there, you're listening, you're engaging them, you're helping them to form those friendships because they're bringing scenarios and everything. But you step back and let them go through that process. But be present. Be a parent that is always present. And ask those questions. Ask them questions. Sometimes I ask my son, how am I doing with my parenting? Sometimes he tells me, in this area, I think you should understand. And I tell him what I need him to be as a son, my expectations at this moment in time. Not something too well, but little steps every day. Parents, you know your child. So, because we're our children's first educators, we know our children. Just let's take time to really study them, think about the process, and just be present. And if you need help, I would say, if you need help, not only coaching, because you might need therapy of some stuff because of experiences, seek help if you need help. Sometimes we run away from help. Support, everybody needs a bit of support every now and then. Yes.
Wow, thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. Just even thinking about myself, I'm like, Lord Jesus, sometimes you go into parenting, for me, I'm very, very possessive. And I'm like, when you mentioned friendship, alarm bells, I found every negative friend in the name of Jesus. Like, you never feel binding. How would you release this? Anyway, thank you very much. So much thoughts, so much to reflect on, so much to practice. It's been really, really practical, and I'm definitely waiting for your ebook. I think I'll be one of your first customers. And she's Parenting Room with Tunmike. She's on Calendly. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. Get in touch if you have any need in terms of parenting. Thank you so much, Miss
Thank you
Tunmike.
so much.
And thanks to
Thank you for
everyone that
having me.
oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks to
you.
everyone that joined. Do have a lovely week ahead. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Wise Attraction on Facebook and on YouTube at Wise Attraction. We talk about different things to help singles, and it might help couples. Like, for instance, today we're talking about parenting. Parenting has to do, a lot of parents are married, although there are also single parents out there. We can't ignore that. But please subscribe to be a part of our shows. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.